Cation. There. I think we're on now.
We're on? Okay. Okay, let's all bow our heads. Dear holy and righteous Father, we thank you for all that you are. We thank you for being here in our presence tonight. In your word, Isaiah 55:9 says, "For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So, Father, I ask you that all these that you have brought here tonight in this place, this council, that you have gifted, Father, that you have appointed for such a time as this, that, Father, their thoughts would be your thoughts, Father, that you would lead us according to your ways and your purposes and your plans. For your ways and your purposes, your plans are right and true and just, and your plans are to prosper us and to give us a future and a hope. Father, your word says in Matthew 17:20, "Assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you." So, Father, we ask you for a measure of faith tonight in each one of us gathered here tonight. Father, with the mountains of things that loom before us, Father, knowing that if we believe, Father, and we trust in you, Father, that those mountains shall crumble, Father, and that the way shall be right and true before us, Father. Father, and your word says to trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So I thank you, Lord Jesus, that you are directing the pathway of this city through those that are gathered here tonight. Though things seem impossible to us in the flesh, Father, though poverty, though money, finances, though crime, though things like that seem impossible to us, changing hearts and bringing unity of everyone seems impossible, Lord. Nothing is impossible with you. So we thank you, Father, for leading and directing in this meeting tonight. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Linda. So now that it's 6 o'clock, we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Here.
McClanathan, I'm sorry, he's absent, Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Mysick,
Here.
and Berberay.
Here.
Thank you. And if you could please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Mysick.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Alderman Mysick, this is your meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
We have a motion made by Alderman Borneman, seconded by Alderman Ross. Is there let's take a voice vote on this. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. So we'll move on to approval of minutes from the Committee of the Whole held on July 8th. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Alderperson Brashaw, seconded by Alderperson Busker. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to public comments. We do not have any public comments today. So let's move into agenda item 7. This is discussion of an ordinance amending Chapter 242, Fire Department, Section 242.10G, probationary period, Section 242.11, promotions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Freeport. And the background from staff says this ordinance change is a cleanup and codifies necessary edits as a result of the Freeport Fire Department 2018 reorganization, changes in class titles for the Office of the Illinois State Fire Marshal, and educational requirements set forth in the Board of Police and Fire Commissioner rules. Chief Liggett?
This finishes up all of the work that we've done with the Police and Fire Commission rules, the reorganization of the department, and then also allows a forwards and backwards consideration of training requirements for the classes that are provided by the Illinois State Fire Marshal's Office for certifications for our fire officers. This is an important step for us to complete the reorganization process and also allow us to start working on our succession planning for the future and growing our candidates inside the department. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chief Liggett, we realize that you have done a lot of work going through all these ordinances to make the changes, and we realize a lot of these are necessary according to the state martial code. Is that correct?
The state code, in this particular situation, there's not really any code that affects it. The Illinois Fire Marshal's Office sets the class titles and the curriculum for each of the certifications that are required. So from time to time, as they grow and evolve and the national standards change, those class titles may change. Illinois, other states might use what's called Pro Board for their certification entity. Some might use the International Association of Fire Service accreditation. Others might have their own program, and that's exactly what the Illinois Fire Marshals do. They have a program where they develop their own curriculum and certification processes. So this is consistent with what they're doing. And then also from a national best standards perspective, and the International Association of Fire Chiefs Officer Development Handbook, the classes that we're requiring of these individuals to be professionally qualified to work at that level is also a recommendation. There are some statutory adoptions that cover the certification requirements to operate as a firefighter in the state, and then also requirements to operate as a fire officer in command of a fire. And those are safety regulations to make sure that we have qualified folks on the fire ground.
A follow-up?
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that for us. So again, it's through the national best practices, in your opinion, and you reviewed all of the ordinances at this point. Are we going to expect other changes coming forward?
This review occurred prior to my arrival. So these are cleanups that occurred, and I know that the city attorney reviewed everything that we were working on. Not Aaron, but Roxanne reviewed everything that we have been working on, and this is also in conjunction with the Police and Fire Commission rule changes that occurred to facilitate the organization also. So as far as future, if we discover something that needs to be amended, of course we'll bring it forward, but I think we've caught everything.
Wonderful. I want to commend you and also Chief Townsend and anyone else who helped you with going over these ordinances and bringing this to our attention with the necessary changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any further discussion? So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
thank you. If I could leave and ask council, would you like this to be moved forward to the next council meeting?
We would like to move it to the next council meeting for consideration by the council.
So, sir, do we need to take action on this, or does it automatically go forward? Attorney Zetto, I'm sorry.
We've traditionally taken a motion second to move forward for first reading.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion moving this forward, the ordinance amending Chapter 242 Fire Department, Section 242.1. probation period in section 242.11, promotions of the code of ordinances of the city of Freeport.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Alderperson Brasha, seconded by Alderperson Parker. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. This moves to the next scheduled council meeting. Moving on to item number 8, discussion of existing conditions report for the comprehensive plan. Director Zupkoff.
Thank you, Chair. So the existing conditions report, which y'all received, is the first deliverable document in the comprehensive planning process. It's made up of a lot of data and information derived from meetings with city staff and community stakeholders, along with Ratio, our planning firm, as well as analysis of Freeport's existing demographic and economic conditions, and a review of existing plans and documents. More specifically, information it contains include notes from 4 advisory committees of approximately 10 members who are all community leaders. Each had 4 meetings earlier this spring. At those 4 meetings, they each set a vision statement for their group's focus. They developed goals and objectives to achieve that vision. They wrote strategies to achieve those goals and objectives, and they determined how to implement those written strategies. Ratio hosted focus groups to gain additional insight into Freeport's current conditions, made up of small business owners, major employers, and high school students. Ratio reviewed and analyzed past plans and reports, including the 2018 City of Freeport Strategic Plan, the Chicago Avenue Arts Corridor Streetscape Project, the Civic Arts Plaza Concept Design, our last comprehensive plan from 2010, and the 2019 Greater Freeport Partnership Strategic Plan. And there have been additional conversations that Ratio has had with city staff and with us and our community partners. For example, the Park District is also using Ratio for their comprehensive plan, so there have been calls between the city, the Park District, and Ratio to ensure both those plans are moving in the same direction, specifically in regards to open space and parks and recreation aspects. So what's next in the comprehensive planning process after the delivery of this existing conditions report? The Planning Commission and Advisory Committee members will reconvene on August 22nd. That's a week from Thursday at 5:30 p.m. in this room to review this document, and they'll take part in activities provided by Ratio that will provide additional feedback and data into the planning process. Additionally, Ratio will have an activity booth at Paint the Port, which is on September 13th, to gather community feedback from a greater number of citizens. Paint the Port leadership is planning on putting Ratio near the registration area on Spring Street for greatest visibility, and Ratio's activities that night will be fun, interactive, and easy as a way to encourage greater involvement from those in attendance. Another workshop hosted by Ratio with high school students, this time from both Freeport High School and Ackwen, will take place in late September. And after these upcoming meetings and workshops, information gathered from them will be compiled, additional analysis will take place, and a draft comprehensive plan is currently expected around the end of this year. Some final additional meetings and analysis will take place after receiving the draft plan to fine-tune that document, and then the comprehensive plan is expected to be presented to council for consideration and adoption sometime around early summer of next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Zupkoff. It's a very comprehensive document looking at this, 137 pages, very thorough in giving the existing conditions here in the city of Freeport, and certainly it is time for us to review this. So thank you for keeping us abreast of this process. Do we have any discussion from council?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Brasha.
Thank you. Director Zupkoff, I was very impressed with this draft. I'm not sure, is this the final draft?
This could be considered the final draft of the existing conditions report, unless, of course, any of you had changes that you would want made to it.
May I continue?
You may.
Thank you. Well, going through 137 pages of it, it's kind of hard to document those changes. I learned a lot of wonderful facts about Freeport. I didn't know it was originally named Winnesheck. So you actually taught me a few things, or whoever helped you design this. And I think it's a great start. There again, I'm looking forward to looking at the entirety of the comprehensive plan brought to us in summer of 2020. Now, the Planning Commission, I see you, is going to see it August 22nd. Have they seen this at all yet?
Yeah, they received this presentation at their meeting last week, pretty much in this exact same format. Their meeting on the 22nd, along with the members from the advisory committee, will be more interactive and an opportunity for them to provide specific input on this with activities that Ratio is going to create.
And the other thing is the management team, which is all the department heads and key players from Greater Freeport Partnership, Fairgram, and some other, the library. I had an opportunity to go through this and review it and pick out tidbits at the end of July. And those will, when we go through the review of our strategic plan, that'll be some of the basis of where things that are being brought to you by us when we're reviewing our current strategic plan.
That's great to know. May I have one more follow-up?
Yes, Alderperson Brashaw.
Thank you. Well, Director Zupkoff, I think I'm the only council member here currently who was part of the last comprehensive plan, which was in 2009, published in 2010. And it's been a long time coming. I mean, that one had been probably close to 30 years before it had changed. And so it did need to be redirected. And that one perhaps wasn't written the best. A lot of people said it was more of a framework, a Freeport, more instead of an actually a comprehensive plan. This seems to have a lot more information in it. And I do want to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
So Manager Currow, I also wanted to mention thank you for keeping us abreast of the schedule of this process. I know the planning process, and within this document, beginning page 8 and following, gives us a schedule. So that's very helpful in keeping us on track for all of this planning. Any further discussion by council? So the desire of this Director Zubkoff is obviously to provide any edits and timing of those edits when those are needed.
If you could had anything by the meeting on the 22nd, that would give us an opportunity to make changes, or at least note changes at that meeting. But really, any time throughout the planning process is fine.
Okay. Thank you, Director Zubkoff. So,
Chair,
yes, Alderperson Bornemann.
Director, when you say make changes, are specific things that they're expecting, or because they're the professionals we hired to create this, so why would we be in a position to create edits to a professionally completed report?
For example, one piece of feedback we've gotten is just one word, but it can make a difference. It originally noted that the east side floodway would eventually be turned into recreation, which that could connote there's going to be redevelopment, but there's really not. So one of the community leaders, as Lowell mentioned, that reviewed this, asked that it be changed to that instead of being turned into recreation, it be turned into green space or open space, which implies that it's not going to be redeveloped, which it won't be. So just maybe maybe things like that, just wording or terminology, that having boots on the ground and a more intimate understanding of the community, and that could be viewed as semantics, but semantics can certainly make a difference. So things like that is the feedback we've been receiving so far.
Okay, thanks. That puts it into perspective for me. That makes sense. Can I have a follow-up?
Yes, Alderperson Bornemann.
So the Planning Commission is also going to be tasked with reviewing it and suggesting for edits or additions?
Yes, yep, that's right.
And then you said the last meeting of August is when you would like the council to submit any changes or additions?
Yeah, next week, August 22nd, that's going to be posted as a special planning commission meeting, since we're expecting a quorum of them there. So, if you had any changes you wanted reflected at that meeting, we'd need to have them before the meeting, of course. But this will be going on for several more months, this planning process. So if at any point you have any feedback or any suggestions, we're always willing and wanting to hear them.
Thanks.
So thank you, Director Zupkoff. Yes, Alderperson Burbray.
One of the sections I was looking at is the goals and objectives. Who or how are those goals and objectives once established? Who's going to be responsible for reviewing those on some regular basis? And is the purpose of the comprehensive plan to identify potential action steps that will be included, or do the action steps come after the plan is approved?
Answer that. So the goals and objectives will be reviewed by the management team as we go throughout, and it's also an opportunity whenever we go back through the strategic planning, which is in the cycle is every 2 years after the elections occur, and we have changes or their council, it's an opportunity to re-review our goals and objectives as we set forward here with you to see if we need to change some of the goals and objectives. So this is a living, breathing document that we don't put on the shelf as many comprehensive plans have become. It is really supposed to drive the growth in the community and direct the growth is how we go forward. If it's a good comprehensive plan, it will.
Okay. Thank you both.
Council, any further discussion? Okay. So I'm hearing the action here is simply to provide any thoughts, edits to Director Zupkoff by next meeting, the 22nd.
Yep, that's correct. Thank you.
No further action is required. Thank you. So moving on to item 9, discussion regarding approval of redevelopment and loan agreement with Abet Books and Wall Stabilization. Manager Crow.
Thank you, Chairman. So, as you know, there was a building that was taken down over almost 3 years ago in the area of Stevenson. 2 buildings were affected by that. One was the Joe's Pizza building, which had a common wall with the building that was taken down. And as part of the original agreement going forward with the taking down of that building, that wall was stabilized and finished. The wall within Abet Books was not a common wall. There was actually a gap of about 1.5 feet. Attorney Cox and I did a lot of work when we did it, looking at it. We did bring in an engineering firm to look at the conditions of those walls and make recommendations as we were going forward. That was passed on to the owner of Abet Books, and then we, over the last 6 months, have been working, myself, Attorney Zito, the partnership, particularly Andrea Winter, has been working with the owners to go develop a way that we can fund their stabilization. So this is this before you is a different way to do it. What it does is it sets up basically we are giving them a loan. It's a 5-year forgivable loan. With what they do is they take 1/5 of the cost. It's $108,000 is what will the cost of the stabilization. For every year that the business remains open. And what it does is this is a business that is this building is key to that block, and it's also a business that's operating and doing well. If at any time that business closes, there is a clause within the contract that then they begin to it becomes a high interest loan for them. Basically, it gives them an incentive to keep the building open. My experience with this in a previous community is even with the owner closed the business, then they turned around and rented to another business to make sure that they're on this, make sure that we have a business operating in that building. This is also the business owner has an apartment within the building itself. This will stabilize that wall, stabilize the front facade. He also received facade grant money to take that. Part of the work that was done was remove the metal sheeting that was causing some of the issues. It was putting additional weight. So he received facade grant money to remove those, which he has done. And this will move, this will then stabilize the rest of the building, make sure that building is in good condition. And that's kind of the key building for the remainder of the block. If that building goes, then it will act as a domino effect, and there's a good chance that we may lose other sections within the block, within that block. The one thing I will tell you that this was presented to the owner. However, he and his wife was presented to them. His wife had a baby about the same time as Director Carr's, and he has not had a chance to review it with his attorney. But I wanted to get it in front of council, so this is a little bit different type of funding document than we've done before. Funding method, both, I believe, Attorney Zito, you've seen something similar to this. I have, and so.
Correct. I've seen forgivable loan concept in other communities. They're similar to revolving loan funds where they can be, under certain circumstances, you can use them and make them become a grant there as long as certain conditions are met. So that's basically what we have here as Manager Crow set forth.
So what I would like to do is once an opportunity to review this and he gets back to us, I would like to present this to council for information purposes, and then once he has a chance to review it, I will bring it forward for council for ultimate approval. So this is an opportunity to answer any questions for you in a public forum about this particular program and what we're moving forward. The money is coming out of our redevelopment bond that we had for downtown. And so this will be the first project we've funded out of that.
Thank you, Manager Crow. Yes, Alderperson.
The process of stabilization done by some firm, the city does the contracting?
No.
And we do the bidding, or?
No, it's done. He's actually presented us with bids to do it.
Right.
We did the engineering, contracted the engineering design. So his firm had a basis in which to do it, but the money is given to him, and then he is responsible for making sure our building inspectors and engineering firm will then review the work as we go forward.
So it's to our code.
Right.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Porneman.
So to summarize, it's a loan of $108,000, right?
That's correct.
And it is money coming from a fund that can only be used in a specific area of town,
That's correct.
and that's where this building is located. So
It's in the downtown TIF, yes.
this money couldn't be used anywhere else throughout town.
That's correct.
It's earmarked for specific purposes, this being one of them.
That's correct.
This business, Abet Books, has been you described as a successful business.
I believe it has. It's been in existence for at least the period of time I've been in the city, which is 2.5 years.
At the same time, it's a smaller business that probably couldn't afford to do this necessary improvements without help from the city.
That's correct.
The risk to the city, if, let's say, the loan is defaulted on, what would be the options for the city to recover on that?
Ultimately, if they completely default on the loan, that building would return to the city, and it would be a building eligible for the land bank.
Would it be fair to say the building's somewhat collateral for
It is.
this loan? So
The-
it's backed by something?
It's backed by the collateral. One of the researchers is Director Zubkov was helpful with this. He researched the background and the loans that are outstanding with this business owner.
And it seemed pretty clear that this was not just something that would benefit that business, but the entire block, as structural integrity is this building is pretty important to the structural integrity of that entire block.
It is. It's kind of the lead building. With the other buildings, if we lost this building, the next building over has a common wall, and it just would be cascading down the building. And we do not want empty teeth within the downtown. We already have one
Mhm.
We don't want any more down there.
And this loan kind of, I don't want to say guarantees, but the purpose of it is to keep a business in a building as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your work on this, and I think this is a great start to the redevelopment and revolving loan process that we're going to get going. I know this isn't necessarily a revolving loan, but I appreciate the work on this, and I think it's a good use of our funds, and it's going to benefit the city and the local business.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Alderperson Brescia.
thank you. Manager Crowe, I do want to echo Eric Borneman's statements regarding this, putting businesses forward. My question is regarding interest rate. I realize a forgivable loan is a forgivable loan, and I saw a default interest rate, but do we actually charge an interest rate at all on a forgivable loan?
So we do not. What happens is he continues to build that interest rate if it defaults, but it's also built on the, so basically it's forgiven, that portion of the loan's forgiven, but it builds up on the loan so that if he does default, then we get that's added into the loan itself.
Follow up?
Yes, Alderperson Brescia.
Thank you. So if I understand this correctly, the forgivable loan is 20% per year up to the 5 years, and it starts at 12% and it's compounded interest if he would default after that or during that time frame.
That is correct.
Thank you. I think this is a wonderful idea, sir. Thank you for your work on this, too.
Yes, thank you, Manager Crowe, for your work on this project. I did have one question on this as well. You did mention if this business was to have some issues and another business was to occupy. So if there is an agreement and the new owner comes in, would there need to be new paperwork established with the city?
So the idea is the owner still owns the building, but he has to consistently have a business occupying that building.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Any further questions or discussion from council? Okay. So I heard, Manager Crowe, you'd like to move this to the next meeting once you have further followed up with the owner.
The owner still has not had an opportunity to review it with his attorneys. As dealing with the city on any of the business projects, I always recommend them taking it to their attorneys, and they may want us to make some changes to that. So that's why I said we won't bring it forward, but I wanted to make until everybody has, all the parties are in full agreement on it, but I wanted to make sure that the council was aware of this, because we've been working on this for quite a while.
Yes. So, Manager Crowe, would you recommend for this to come back to Committee of the Whole or to go directly to a future council meeting?
It would go to a future council meeting after we, that's my recommendation, to go to a future council meeting after we make sure all the parties are in agreement.
Okay. So, Attorney Zito, is this an action required today to take a vote?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one more follow-up,
Yes.
and I kind of touched on this. This money could not be used to fix potholes. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is based upon the TIF money. This is used for business redevelopment within the area.
Only thing this thing could be used for is business redevelopment,
That's correct. That's the way the loan's set up and this particular grant is set up.
and that's the way TIFs are set up similarly.
Yes.
Okay, so just want to clarify that for the general public. There might have been asking why
Why
we're
we're not
spending
using
money on this and not potholes, because we are aware potholes are a problem.
Okay. Yes. Alderperson Burberry.
I noticed in Manager Crowe, your description here talked about the wall is along the Marion Garvin's lot. We're looking to redevelop downtown Freeport. What can be done with that lot? And maybe that's not to be discussed here, but
This
what
is
can be
not-
done with it? Because it's part of it.
This is not to be discussed, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. I wasn't sure, so, all right.
We can discuss.
We can
it
fix the wall, but we can't talk about the lot.
because of legal reasons.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, that's fine.
Okay. So, council, if there's no further discussion, let's move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 10, review of 2 security systems for City Hall building, presented by Director Sutman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, I'm not going to touch that again. Somebody should fix these microphones. All right, so the background of this agenda item is currently at a lot of city buildings, we have a limited ability to notify first responders, mainly police, in the event of a emergency. I was able to find 2 vendors that provide systems. They're in your packet. I found a third, but it didn't really notify police, so they really didn't fit our scope. Kind of the first one we have is the Blue Point system, which is very nice. It has a lot of visual stimulus to let you know what's going on, but it was a little more expensive. Our Wave system was less expensive, and I think actually covers a few more sites. Initial staff recommendation is to go with the Wave Plus system. Any question?
Excuse me.
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
Thank you. I meant to say chairman, and I got tongue-tied there. Yes. Kurt, we were looking through this, and I see that the wave system costs less than $9,330 and does not have reoccurring charges. How can they do that without charging a monthly service?
It is hosted on site. So basically, we're buying a thing that we put in City Hall and just keeps working, if that makes sense.
Follow up, please.
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
And what do they estimate the life expectancy of the system?
I didn't get that exactly from them, but we have a previous generation of this exact system that currently works in City Hall that is, I think, maybe 10 years old right now.
The system we have here in City Hall came from the old City Hall building, so it's worked. I mean, that gives you an idea of how old it is, and it was much more of an analog type system.
One more follow-up.
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
This could be for Manager Crow or IT Director. I understand this can be utilized in more than one building. Do you have other buildings in mind that this would work for the city of Freeport?
City Hall is the main one, but we do have other facilities that the public comes to, and it's not necessarily, an aggressive visitor. It could also be used for alerts for other first responder incidents.
First respond. Any building that has a contact, we need to have contact, make sure that the police, and that it basically goes into the 911 center and responds to allow us to have response for, primarily, it is if we have a hostile come in. And we've had issues with people coming up, make threats to workers within the city. We've actually made 2 arrests here in the city for people that have violently threatened 2 of our workers, both within Andrews area. So this is, and additionally, we've had people come up to to Dovey's area and Mayor's my area with very threatening in nature. But we also have that same issue down on Island when people, and they're very isolated, and we needed a way. When we looked at this, when I gave Kurt the tasker 18 months ago and said, go find the best system that we can afford out there. And so he looked at the Blue Point system, which I would call is the Maserati or Ferrari of the systems, because it actually has cameras, blue lights, everything. And then we looked at a very low end that didn't meet our needs. And then the Wave was kind of the center point. And this gives the police the ability to respond. And I'll turn it over to Chief Fife on this if you want to add, because I know you've actually been involved in an active shooter in your
No, I
previous.
think it's most units of
Pull your mic down.
most units of government are going to systems of this type. I know when I was in DeKalb, we installed one at City Hall because it's just a different world today than it was 20 years ago, and so I'd strongly recommend adopting an improved security system for the building.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Brescia.
Thank you. And I'm fine with this. I mean, I think it's great to have extra security, but my question is this: is it a one-time charge of $9,330 to cover more than one building, such as City Hall, perhaps down at the island area, and then maybe the library or something like that?
I'd have to check on buildings like the library, but it is a one-time charge, and it's due to our internal infrastructure that we're able to cover all those buildings.
It runs on our computer system. That's why he probably doesn't know, because the library is not part of our computer system.
Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Ross.
Yes, Director. Is there any default or backup plan, say that the system, since it runs on a computer plan, if things go down?
There are physical buttons to where it all works over radio waves, and the police station dispatch would still be alerted instantly.
Like 900 megahertz, something like that?
Exactly 900.
There you go. Right. I don't want to seem like I know it all, but I do.
Get on that one.
You know? But I know that it was one of the major questions, because I mean, if it, like you said, we don't know what's going to happen day by day with all the crazy things that's happening. So as long as they got a backup plan, something to fall back on, that's going to make all the employees in the city a lot safer.
Yep.
Good deal.
Chair,
Yes, Alderperson Borneman.
have you had a chance to speak with any other municipalities or locations that use this wave?
I haven't called any of them. I just went off of our experience with it in-house. I didn't reach out to anyone, no.
Manager Crow, do you have any experience with other communities using these type of systems, and what type of options have been helpful, like such as panic buttons or?
So I actually watched the demonstration of the Ferrari system in another community, but and then I had we also had it in the previous community, and we actually used it a few times when we had, but ours was a hardwired system but it was based upon, it ran across our computer system as well. So that was that. What you need is a system that is reliable and that is easy to operate and is basically undetectable. The Blue Point has lights, it has pull, and this we actually has other switches we can put in, but and then it has a camera system so you can track it and it alerts the whole building. And that's the big difference, is that it alerts the whole building and then isolates for the police department which floor they are, but it's significantly more expensive. It's $47,000 plus upgrades, right? Or is it 27,000?
Yeah.
Plus upgrades as we go forward if we want switches. But as I said, that I saw a demonstration of that one at ICMA, and they're looking at. There were 3 companies, and Wave was one of them, but I just did not watch a demonstration of it.
Thank you, Manager Curl. I do have a question on this as well. So the Wave system has virtual panic buttons, so that sounds as though those are accessible on the computer, and then it also has the possibility of physical panic buttons for like on the wall. So I guess in my understanding that sounds like a city staff would have access to the virtual, but the only way for a member of the general public to trip an alarm would be with a physical panic button. Now, do we have any experience with systems like this in use where a panic button is needed in a situation where the general public needs to have that?
We've never had a situation here, to my knowledge, that the public needed it. It'd probably be good to have if the situation arose. I wish I'd done a little better job on this, getting apples to apples. The Wave system does, they call it a mushroom button. So they do have similar to what the Blue Point has, a pole. They just have a button you mash that could be mounted in a public area. And then the physical buttons are more for at a person's desk.
So each one of anybody that has a computer can light it off, but then each one of our people at key points like Connie, Rhea, who's or Diane, and then Denise. And if you'll notice downstairs, we actually have lockable doors because they have had issues where people get angry at their water bills and have gone in. So that's why we installed the lock at that door. But they all have within somewhere where they have a physical button which they can light off, or they will.
Yes, Director.
Also down at Island, there's only one person on a computer, so everyone else would have to have a physical button to have any kind of a chance in a situation like this. So not everybody's always at a computer, so that might be another reason why there might be one needed that you can physically access.
Sure. So, Director Sutman, in this, it sounds as though the Wave system has that capability to add these buttons. So, I guess the cost of this, like to add into the system?
Yeah, if you go a la carte, just your regular panic button, not the one mounted on a wall, they're $125 each, and those wall mounted are $350. So even adding a few of them, and it's still much cheaper.
Okay.
Chair again.
Yes, Alderperson Ross.
This may be kind of far out there, but does anything come in a wireless?
Like cellular?
Or a panic button?
Well, I mean, they are radio controlled as far as that goes. They will send a text message to cell phones if we wanted them to. I don't know if that answers your wireless question.
Well, just wondering if they had a wireless remote person may leave their desk and carry it with them or anything like that. I know that's getting kind of out there, but
if they wanted to, they could carry them around. It works over radio waves, so it's got a battery. Wherever you're at and you hit it, as long as you're within range, it'll go off.
all right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So whether you are at a computer or whether it's a panic button, will it only notify 911, or does it also, like, let's just say something happened in community development, would it throw something out there where maybe Dovey would have knowledge that somebody might be coming up? Is there, no?
I believe it would show a warning on your computer system. Each computer can have 4 distinct buttons, and also they're programmable. So if, say, somebody on the first floor at a specific location hit a panic button, we could customize the message to the police or fire, whoever needs to come, of where that button was pushed. So there's a little customization there.
That was the advantage of the Blue Point system, is there was a true indication that's the high end, is you actually have flashing lights, indication that there's a alert someplace else in the building. It also has cameras, a microphone system so you can alert people at the computer, but you're spending a lot more, and what we wanted to do was get a system in that would meet our needs but not yet break the bank.
So the answer to that was only goes to 911 system then?
No, it actually reports up on the computers. Everybody gets a notification on the wave.
Yes. Question also, Director Sutman, you mentioned there were 4 different alert types. Can you elaborate more on that?
Well, I think the way it is in their program, there's room for 4 buttons. So you could make those do a lot of different things. As far as if you hit one button that says maybe somebody's getting a little aggressive, can I have a policeman come over and de-escalate the situation? There's also one for please get over here like right now. And in theory, you could have one say, you'd probably want to call 911, but one could say, person's having a heart attack. In theory, you'd probably want to call 911 for that though. But there's a couple options.
This is really set up for a hostile or active shooter position.
Yep.
So that the police, so if the police gets this warning, one of the aldermen asked me the question, if the police gets a warning that we have a person in here, we want them to respond as if it's an active shooter, because you never know what's going on. And, so we train our guys as an active shooter. The first person through the first officer on scene is the first person through the door. And because if you don't know, many of the active shooter is a perfect example is the shooting, the two shootings that took place here this last weekend. The officers were on scene in Dayton, Ohio in less than 45 seconds, and there were already 9 people dead. The officers were on scene in 5 minutes in El Paso. 26 people were dead. So it's the quicker you get there, and the quicker, and where it came out of was I think it was the Kansas City theater shooting, where the first officer on scene immediately went in and disrupted by the situation. That's where kind of the training changed on the way that they're training the police officers.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
Thank you. Manager Crowe, I realize that this item costs less than $10,000 and doesn't necessarily have to have council approval because of the dollar item. So I would like to ask Director Bucas, well, first of all, thank you for putting all this together, and for the safety reasons, yes.
I'll give credit to Kurt and Todd Barklow.
Yep.
When Todd identified this as soon as we walked into the building.
Thank you. And then if I may further, I just wanted to ask Randy Bucas, Director Bucas, excuse me. I know this is coming and funded through the IT budget, but can you tell me if this is coming from a specific fund? Is this money, has it been earmarked in the past for this item?
It's just coming from the general fund.
The general fund?
Yes.
And we can afford it?
Yes.
And one more
Can
follow-up?
add.
One more follow-up?
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
Thank you. And are we looking to make this an action item soon on council agenda? Is this what you're...
Well, the reason we presented it here, we wanted to brief everybody, but we wanted to make sure that council was okay with us moving forward with the wave system versus the other system we looked at. So if the other system, the Blue Point, would require council approval because of the additional cost at it. So that was why we wanted to brief this, is this was what the staff recommended going forward. And then once the staff, because my limit's 10,000, we can just move forward with this if that's what the council wants to do.
Counselor? May I ask him?
Yes, Alderperson Brascia.
Counselor Zeta, if the council then approves it and they decide to make the changes later, like add the buttons or anything, that's not a big deal, is it?
As long as you don't exceed that $10,000 mark. So I think ultimately, if what I'm hearing is that the council wants to move forward with the wave, then I think a motion to just have staff move forward with pursuing the wave system could be made, and then staff can take that forward to the extent the cost after adding in additional buttons or whatever it is ends up exceeding the limit, the $10,000 limit, then it would need to be brought back at that point and say, hey, we're at 1,100, 11,000 now, and then get the formal approval from the council. But if it doesn't, then they can just move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Zito. I do have a question here as well. Chief Fythen, are you familiar with these systems? Do you have any thoughts as well in terms of risk and how this system may best serve? And the wave appears also to be a reasonable item to pursue.
Well, I would say that the wave's a reasonable item to pursue. I have not I do not have any experience with either one of these systems.
Okay.
So I can't comment. I don't know if Todd, if he was involved in the process or not. I'm not sure.
So what Chief Barklow and Todd looked at, he actually looked at, when he went to the national convention for the.
He saw him just, okay.
He saw them both, and he was the one that, and then at my national convention, they were demonstrating the Blue Point. So that was the other concern. We would be the first community in Illinois to use Blue Point. They were at the summer conference demonstrating it. They're using it in more. It's being used in communities that are much larger than ours, but I know that they have issues within those communities So I said both Todd and I really like the system, but we wanted to get a quote on it because that's when they came in and looked at us. That's what. And the wave we had seen a demonstration of it here in the city. So before we went out there, so he had looked at multiple systems, and these were the two he came back with.
Thank you, Manager Curl. Any further discussion, Council?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Alderperson Brashaw.
Thank you. Well, for the listening public, the system that you've kind of raved about, the Blue Point system, is quite expensive. It's $24,184 and a cost of $2,300 annually, compared to the Wave system, which is the one that the staff is recommending, and that has a one-time charge of $9,330 and can be used in more than one building. So I guess I would like to make a motion to let the staff move forward on this.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderperson Brashaw, seconded by Alderperson Ross. Attorney Zito, does this need a roll call vote?
You can do it by a voice vote.
Okay. Is there any further discussion by the council before we take a vote? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, motion passes, or the ayes have it.
Good old eyes.
So now we enter into item number 11, public comments. Do we have any comments? Yes, Tommy. You have 3 minutes.
We got a Special Olympics bowling tournament at Cherry Bowl on Saturday the 17th to the 18th. At Cherry Bowl in Rockford. And I'm going to bowl at 9:30 on Sunday.
Yes, congratulations, Tommy.
I just wanted to tell you, Jody.
Thank you, Tommy. Any further public comments tonight? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second it again.
So we have a motion to adjourn made by Alderperson Busker, seconded by Alderperson Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you.